In the 90s, everyone wanted to look like Linda Evangelista. But in 2021, she didn't want to look at herself. She wasn't just the face of fashion, she was its definition. With razor-sharp cheekbones, icy blue eyes, and the ability to become anyone in front of the camera, Linda Evangelista was walking art. Alongside Naomi, Cindy, and Claudia, she defined what it meant to be a supermodel. But unlike the others, Linda would later reveal a vulnerability that no one saw coming. The 1990s were a golden era of beauty standards. Models weren't just admired, they were idolized, and Linda stood at the center of it all. She dazzled on red carpets, dominated the fiercest Versace campaigns, and became Vogue's perennial cover girl. But behind the blinding lights, shadows lingered. Beauty is pain. Linda was fashion's ultimate chameleon. One day, a jazz diva, the next a silent film star. Hair color, eye makeup, facial structure, she could morph it all. But over time, this gift became a burden. Reinvention stopped being a choice, it became an obligation. In the late 2000s, Linda disappeared. Tabloids whispered of retirement. Others said she found peace in solitude. But the truth was more haunting. She was breaking inside. In 2015, a cosmetic procedure meant to freeze fat cool sculpting left her physically disfigured. Linda Evangelista could no longer recognize the face in the mirror. This isn't just a tragedy about one model. It's a warning of how beauty can become a weapon. One of the most powerful faces in fashion had become her own enemy, and the silence that followed was deafening. For 5 years, she vanished. No interviews, no public appearances. While the world wondered, where is Linda? She was trying to rediscover who she had become. Subscribe now for more untold truths. And stick around, things are about to get deeper. Linda Evangelista's disappearance was less about vanishing and more about trying to rediscover herself. To see a woman once hailed as the definition of beauty grow ashamed of her appearance wasn't just a physical shift. It was the unraveling of an identity built under constant pressure. The cool sculpting procedure didn't just change her body. It broke something deeper, her sense of self. In theory, the treatment was simple. Freeze fat cells, reduce body mass. But Linda's body reacted differently. She developed a rare side effect called paradoxical adipose hyperplasia. Instead of shrinking, the treated fat cells grew. Her once celebrated contours, those that defined high fashion elegance, were distorted. But the real tragedy wasn't what the mirror showed. It was that Linda no longer wanted to be seen. Linda didn't rush to tell the world. She didn't hide it either. For 5 years, she stayed out of the spotlight. No appearances, no interviews. In the world of fashion, silence can be louder than a scandal. And Linda's silence was deafening. It wasn't about being invisible. It was about not wanting to be seen. She developed a fear of public spaces. Even something as ordinary as going to the grocery store became an ordeal. What if someone recognized her? What if they didn't? She stayed home. She didn't burn her old photos, but she stopped looking at them. Some close to her recall her saying, "I'm not myself anymore." What she went through wasn't just about body image, it was about identity. In a world where beauty had been her currency, Linda suddenly felt bankrupt. Former friends noticed the shift. Naomi Campbell once called her the most fragile of us all. She had carried the weight of expectations for decades. Everyone saw her as powerful. But under that strength was quiet suffering. Linda had been molded into a vision of perfection for years, and now that mold had cracked. Linda Evangelista's long silence ended in 2021 with a whisper that echoed like a scream. After 5 years in the shadows, the legendary face returned, but this wasn't a comeback. It was a confession. She didn't reappear on a runway. She reappeared in People magazine, saying one sentence that shook the fashion world: "I have been brutally disfigured and left permanently deformed." Those words weren't for shock. They were truth. They were grief. But most of all, they were brave. Linda no longer wanted to hide. She wasn't trying to appear strong. The photos that accompanied the interview were raw. No makeup, no lighting tricks, no filters. Just Linda scarred, shaken, and still standing. The media went wild. Linda's shocking face. Supermodel ruined by beauty. The end of an icon? But Linda didn't flinch. This wasn't about headlines. It was about healing. She wasn't seeking pity or attention. She was reclaiming her story on her own terms. Very few people in fashion dare to be that honest, especially someone whose career was built entirely on image. But that was the point. Linda wasn't talking about beauty anymore. She was talking about loss, shame, fear, and survival. Rather than fight the fact that people only saw her face, she chose to show them everything behind it. Letters poured in after the interview. Women wrote to say they felt the same. That they too hated mirrors. That they too were scarred by procedures meant to fix them. Linda realized she wasn't alone. Her pain was shared. Her truth was needed. And suddenly she wasn't just remembered for the face that sold 1,000 magazines. She was seen for the woman she had become, the one telling the truth. For the first time, people weren't quoting her photos. They were quoting her words. Linda had become a voice. A voice for all. The pain that never got to speak. Linda Evangelista's years of invisibility ended in 2021, not just with an interview, but with a rebellion against beauty standards themselves. Her silence broke like a dam, and its ripple echoed far beyond fashion circles. Social media, television, even medical forums erupted. Because this wasn't just a story of cosmetic failure. It was a direct challenge to how we define beauty in the modern age. After that groundbreaking interview, Linda didn't vanish again. Instead, she began reconstructing her own visibility. She joined awareness campaigns supporting those affected by cosmetic trauma. She became a public speaker, lending her voice to emerging conversations around body neutrality. For Linda, beauty wasn't the goal anymore, visibility was. She wasn't trying to return to modeling. She was learning to inhabit her body on her own terms. The fashion world didn't immediately welcome her back. To them, Linda was a ghost of a golden era, but Linda changed that narrative. She posed for raw, honest photographs. She told unfiltered stories. She didn't hide the altered contours of her body. She showed them, not as a plea for sympathy, but as a stance. As resistance. This move split public opinion. Many praised her courage. To them, she wasn't just an ex-model, she was a symbol. Especially for women, Linda became a mirror reflecting their own struggles with aging, identity, and visibility. But others clung to the past. They didn't want to see Linda as she was. They wanted the airbrushed icon, the flawless face. But Linda didn't seek their approval. She was no longer trying to fit the frame. She was rewriting it. Her journey created shockwaves throughout the industry. Some magazines published editorials unpacking her story. Some runways adopted real body themes in their collections. What began as a personal tragedy became a cultural conversation. Linda's pain changed policies. That, in itself, was a kind of comeback louder than any return to the catwalk. During this time, Linda stopped avoiding her past. She embraced it. She had once graced more Vogue covers than anyone. But now she chose to live beyond those pages. She had reached a place where losing beauty became a path to freedom. It wasn't about having a perfect face anymore. It was about having her voice. In interviews, she spoke candidly. About fear, about regret, about resilience. And in that vulnerability, she appeared more human than ever, and perhaps more admired than ever too. Not for her looks, but for her honesty. Linda Evangelista was still inspiring the fashion world. But this time, not through flawless walkways or high-gloss ads. She inspired through her quiet defiance. She didn't return as a brand. She returned as a woman. And that return echoed louder than any campaign. Linda Evangelista no longer walks in the light of runways. She walks in the light she created. She wasn't just shaped by fashion anymore. She had reshaped it. Once the idol of countless women, she had now become their voice. She was once the definition of beauty. Now, she was the reason that definition was being rewritten. This wasn't just her inner war. It was a collective awakening. For years, her legacy was built on iconic poses and flawless symmetry. But now, what lingered in people's minds was her bare truth. Her story wasn't remembered for how she looked, but for how she rose. The voice that followed the silence didn't just shift the industry. It redefined what beauty meant. Linda didn't carry the weight of perfection anymore. She showed the strength inside vulnerability. Through this journey, Linda didn't just experience a cosmetic shift. She rebuilt her identity. Women no longer looked up to her for fashion or hairstyles, but for honesty. The once untouchable queen of Vogue became a leader through her fragility. In an interview, she said, "I'm closer to myself now." And in saying that, she closed an era. This transformation wasn't just personal. Her voice became the echo of all the voices the industry had silenced. When Linda stayed quiet, people reflected. When she spoke, people faced truths. Maybe that's why her return felt like a victory, not because it was loud, but because it reclaimed something quietly stolen. Today, Linda Evangelista isn't everywhere, but her impact is. Every unfiltered face on social media walks a path she paved.
Every
runway that embraces body diversity does so in part because of her honesty. And perhaps now, supermodel doesn't just mean someone flawless, but someone fearless enough to show their flaws. In the end, what Linda gave us wasn't just a warning about cosmetic procedures. It was a mirror for our own stories. 4. Every time we looked at our reflection and felt shame, Linda reminded us she had done the same. But she also taught us to make peace with that reflection. And in doing so, she helped us see something stronger than beauty truth. Most of all, Linda's story isn't just hers. It lives in us. In every moment we felt shaped, silenced, and then reclaimed ourselves. This video isn't just a look at the past. It's an invitation to see ourselves differently. If this journey moved you, don't forget to subscribe. Every story we tell here might help you tell your own.